Your worship and members of council, you know, a center aisle would be a wonderful addition to this place. You know, I was, interesting enough, my notes started with exactly what James said earlier, and that is that freedom and democracy are a messy business. They're not neat and tidy. And when you start to clamp down on them, you've got a problem. And your citizens have a problem. The right to demonstrate is very important in a free and democratic society. One of the important things it does is it takes the heat off. It lets the pressure off when there's a situation. And when you clamp down on it, then things explode. And I think an example of that was last year in Toronto at the G20, when the police started out very heavy. In fact, I was at a very respectable event at Massey Hall, and we came out of it. There were world leaders at this event. Came out of it, and the paddy wagons were all lined up. Well, what sort of a message did that send? And that's the problem. When we start to put controls on peaceful demonstration, you're asking for violence. And they got the violence the next day. Again, the police in Toronto waded in to peaceful demonstrators, and then the lid blew off. So I think it's in your interest to avoid this type of control you're trying to get with this bylaw. Sure, we need one to control wild parties. Let's have it. But we're putting too much into this bylaw. For heaven's sake, you're giving an untrammeled discretion to your staff to just print up a sign and it's prohibited. Put up a sign. It doesn't even tell you what kind of a sign, where it goes, how visible it has to be. Just put up a sign and it becomes an offense under your bylaw. That's terrible. It's totally off the end of anything I think would be proper in our society. Section 14 gives the power to the city to levy a charge against a person they say has caused some loss somehow to the city, and that goes immediately on their tax bill and is enforceable without going to court, without proving your damages, without anything. You just tell the person they owe it, and bingo, it's on their tax bill, and they get their property seized if they don't pay up. There should be one bylaw in the city to deal with problems like nuisance parties. But for heaven's sake, you go back and come out with bylaws that deal with each and every activity and behavior that you want to prohibit or control on public property. Don't go back and use terms like obstructs the free flow of traffic, whatever that means, unreasonable noise, whatever that means, and public disturbance. And the great one, I think, is a manner objectionable to another person. So the offense becomes entirely in the eye of the beholder. This is not good law. It's terrible law. In fact, an example of how bad it was in the beginning, you even prohibited the distribution of handbills on the street. We didn't even need the Charter of Rights for that one. It was 65 years ago. Mr. Justice Kellogg in the Supreme Court of Canada said you can't do that because a rather repressive government in Quebec had brought that law in to put an end to the Jehovah's Witnesses standing on the street. And they were told under our Constitution as it existed 65 years ago that that wasn't something you could do. Well, fortunately, somebody along the line, I guess, grabbed that section and pitched it out. But that, I think that shows you how badly drafted this bylaw has been. Please go back and do it again and be precise about what you want to do. It's very dangerous when you give wide open rules that can be interpreted whatever way somebody wants to interpret them. That's not a free and democratic society, and It's not one I want to live in. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Chaloner? No questions. Thank you very much.